Holy cow, we are getting close. Registration for CONEXPO-CON 2026 is live, baby. And we could not wait to see you there. I honestly can't wait to see everybody there. I'm super pumped. In Vegas, March 3rd to 7th, 2026, to see over 2,000 exhibitors, nearly 3 million square feet of equipment, gear, tech. All the heavy hitters of the industry are going to be there. So you might as well be too. But also, here's the kicker. You can save 30% on your admission right now with code podcast30. Again, code podcast30 to save 30% right now on your tickets. But don't wait, because this is only valid through Friday, December 5th. So grab your crew, mark your calendar. We gonna see you out there. Welcome back, everybody, to the CONEXPO-CON podcast. I am your host, Taylor White. Thank you for John Deere Power Systems for sponsoring this beautiful podcast. And with me here today, I have the man, the legend, Jimmy Starbuck.
Whatever you like to call me. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day to put me on and talk a little bit of rubbish for an hour.
I'm happy to be here with you. And what time is it where you are? It's 5 p.m. Eastern right here.
It's 7 a.m.
Oh, so we're opposites. Like it's start of your work day and it's end of my work day.
Yeah, definitely. The first podcast, I think we were talking about maybe doing it at 5 a.m. So I was able to push it just a little bit.
You know what, Jimmy? You know what I said? I said, my kids, I don't need to eat with my family. Jimmy is more important. So they're out at home eating ribeye steaks. I'm going to stop at McDonald's on the way home and eat a burger. But
You don't look like a burger guy.
look at this. I'm a burger guy.
Actually, the grey was hiding it. Now we're talking. Don't worry. My shirt's a little bit, it needed a button.
Oh, but it just happens. You get to a certain age and then things just start snowballing. And then you're like, wow, if I ate a burger, I'm like fatter the next day. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, but life gets really busy is what it ends up being.
It's so hard to find the time, man. Like, Case, you know what I recently did? And this is a great conversation. I was saying this to a group of guys the other day. I started scheduling my workouts like meetings. I block it out. I put it in my calendar and I treat it like a meeting. It's like a non-negotiable. I have to go do it. And it could be at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m. Doesn't matter. I schedule it like a meeting where it fits in my schedule. And that's been really good.
How many do you do a week?
About 5.
5, not bad. So I do 3 or 4. I try and I do the same thing. So I am 6 o'clock till 7 or 6:15 till 7, something around there in the morning. It's important, I think, to try and keep doing that, even though life gets chaotic around. I find I don't sleep as well if I don't do it, which then that's just a snowball on top. But in saying that, for years and years, I don't think I could have fit in a workout. You know, it was early morning wake ups, and then I think that when you move a little bit into the office, not that the office is, it just has a little bit of different flexibility, but the flexibility sometimes is too, because then you end up working at 10 p.m. at night sending emails when it's pretty hard to drive an excavator on a job site at 10 p.m. at night. So each one has their benefits.
The flexibility is something that it is a privilege. And I think that it's good that you acknowledge it because it's a privilege that I have as well, too. If you're running an excavator every day or driving a dump truck, you can't go work out at 11 a.m. and treat it like a meeting. But it's definitely a privilege that is something new for me as well, too, within the last 2 years. I could not have done that before, but I love it and I appreciate it because it is nice and I do need it.
I think that it's definitely a privilege. I've probably had it just slightly longer, that privilege. It took me a while to get into it, though. I actually went on a holiday somewhere and I got lots of photos taken of me because someone I was traveling with, big influencer like yourself, he had a photographer traveling with him. So the photographer ended up snapping a few photos of me and I got him and God, what a fat.
That's what does it. It's the photos afterwards that you see, like how I think I look on camera. And then when Jake, my videographer, like send me clips and he's like taking it from down here and I'm looking sideways and I'm like, dude, I look like I like don't even care about my body.
I look like I was 300 pounds in some of these. I wasn't, but I forgot you're a kilos man as well. So
no, we're pounds.
You're pounds, but you do centimeters and cubic meters.
I know. It's weird.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we're a mix. Okay, so all that to be said, How have things been? You've been on the podcast numerous times. How have things been going? I know you started I've been watching your podcast. Your stuff that you're putting out is fantastic, by the way.
I appreciate that.
You're at this point where like, you're really like sharing a lot of knowledge that's in your head. And I think that it's really important to get that all out. But, how are things going down there in Melbourne or Melbourne? Yeah.
People call it both. Americans like the Melbourne, Australians like the Melbourne.
Melbourne.
There we go. It hasn't been as good lately. We went through some real government spending that were like sent our economy to the moon. Like we were killing it in a really great way. I'm no economist either, though, but don't worry, I'm a TikTok expert, so I could fix it. I could fix it like this, but we really sent it to the moon during COVID. There was a lot of work out there. House prices were up, machine prices were up, even all the way down to, the places selling topsoil are selling more topsoil, which means we're hauling more topsoil. So like life's gravy. We probably went through a bit of we're at the down period at the moment. They pulled back on some government spending. There was less houses being sold overall, but it gave me a little bit more time. Like I've got a great team that I'd built to, let's say, take care of, I don't know, we'll put numbers on it. 150 people on site per day. I had that team. And I was part of that team. So when we dropped to 100 or 110, I'm not firing people immediately, but it does mean that I have some more time to do stuff. And so one of the things that I took up some of my slack was the podcast and doing some LinkedIn and putting some different thoughts and feelings out there than what I normally had of just taking a photo of an excavator. I think that the world's gone a little bit funny, COVID sort of really turned it upside down, and maybe this is the new normal too. Maybe we forgot what it was like to actually have a quiet winter when before we were hauling our ass off. Maybe a quiet day where all of the boys come back to the yard and, clean excavators and, wash trucks, because that happened, right? But then it didn't happen for so long and we're rolling in money. I don't know. It's all about what the perspective comes out like too.
We're the same here right now. And I'd be interested to know like just exactly how you're combating it. But I mean, for us, we were the same, right? Things were crazy, crazy, crazy. And what we're seeing right now is there's a lot of guys that started up during COVID and during those times, and we're pricing against those guys right now, and they're slow because everybody's slow, and they're working for pennies on the dollar. And that's what's really frustrating. It is what it is, but that's, I guess, what the frustrating part is right now is it's like, we're all out there. And if we really want to continue, on the same trajectory of keep everybody and keep pushing and growing, well, then we're going to have to reduce our margins by crazy amounts. And it's at that point right now where we're like, okay, do we do that? And does it make sense? Or do we downsize a little bit and exactly find more time to maybe do some other stuff?
You also like you can flip the binoculars around, so you're looking at them from the little ones now, and maybe you need to look at them from the big ones, or whichever, vice versa. Not that good with binoculars, but maybe if you look at it over a 5-year sort of thing, Starbucks is still making great money. Maybe for the last 18 months hasn't been making as good of a money, like you say, exactly the same. Margins are really tight. There's guys with a heap of gear parked up and they can't sell it because the arse has fallen out of the secondhand market, which I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but they were demanding a premium and now they're not. And so what are they better off to do? They're paying repayments on something that sits in the yard. They cover the fuel and the operator. And they're at zero anyway with the repayments, like may as well go dig a hole. Maybe they'll find a variation, but they often don't have, I've got 20 people who work in my office. I've got 2 offices, like how are you meant to pay for 2 offices and sales reps and accounts and finance people? And I've got full-time safety and compliance. It does make it difficult, no doubt. One of the ways we've combated that is we recently tried to push into a new state just for some hourly hire work at the beginning. When I say a new state, Australia's big but doesn't have many states. It's similar to Canada. So it's 1,800 kilometres, just over 1,000 miles away. It's not like I know that some states in America is like, oh, I'm working in a new state and it takes them 20 minutes. Nah, this is like the truck drivers used to do it in a day, but it's a 2-day drive. We're pushing in up there. We have tried to open up some of our scope of what we would normally do to increase the jobs that we're able to price, but the jobs aren't there as much. I was talking to a really big builder yesterday, huge, would have had 500 people on, 400 people on. He goes, Jimmy, we're dry. 100 guys we're down to. And he goes, we're just ticking. He goes, we got a lot of tenders and estimates out, but he goes, haven't really picked up anything, which is tough.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What's it like over there?
Same thing, and we're kind of adjusting, pivoting as well too. But for us, it's actually interesting because we do a lot of the residential and commercial work, but the residential side has been super, super quiet. Nobody's really building homes and living in them, and the biggest driver for that was the interest rates. The interest rates going higher, everyone kind of was like, "Okay, we're going to hold on to our money." But it's also difficult too, and I'm not sure where your parliament is down in Australia, but like I'm in Ottawa. Ottawa is like, Washington, D.C. of Canada. This is where our government is. So no matter what, we always still have some government spending, and we always still seem to have government funded projects, and people are spending money. You have a lot of, we call them govies, a lot of government workers here. So guaranteed paychecks are not really getting laid off unless like a government comes in and wants to like actually cut costs and save us money, which we don't have that.
That's not really happening now.
No, it's not at all.
But we've got everyone's so used to being, the billion, trillion, whatever dollar deficit. It's like it doesn't even matter anymore. It's fog. They say, oh, it costs 300 billion, and everyone goes, okay. Like it's moved so far past being relevant to us. We're probably similar. We're I think the second biggest city in Australia. We're always going to have some sort of government funded building. We also have a lot of homes that we need to be built. We got a little bit of a housing crisis here, but yet no one's buying the homes.
That's the same as us. Everyone keeps talking about housing crisis, and there's tons of homes, but no one's buying them.
They introduced over here, they thought it would be a genius idea to tax Airbnbs at like 10% of a levy or something. Well, no one was going to the Airbnbs anyway because no one had any money to holiday. And all it's done is I'm talking thousands of houses back onto the market because they already charge like a land tax if you've got a second property, and now they're charging a levy and taking 10% of the Airbnb, which is worth nothing anyway. And like I said at the very beginning, I'm no economist. I'm not educated in this sort of stuff. I've got opinions from being around smarter people than me and talking, but really at the end of the day, I got no idea what'll fix it. I just want to dig holes, and I'm happy to dig a hole for a pool, or I'm happy to help dig out a freeway. I'm just needing pools and freeways to be built, and it seems like there's not enough.
The exact same up here. And what you mentioned that kind of made me like, oh my God, is, like we're 5 people in our office. I mean, you're saying you have 20 people in your office. Your organization, like as you have kind of grown, how have you structured management? Kind of what do you insist on doing yourself versus delegating?
Poorly. I have structured it terribly, and I've ran into a brick wall or set myself on fire every time I made a decision, which then meant after I'd healed a little bit, I looked at it and went, oh, got to change that. It was a poor decision. Started out with friends and family in the office coming to help rather than doing a job. Ended up with full-time workers that were so invested in helping me and helping the company that I've only got one of them left, actually. Yeah, one full-time one left because, like my best friend from 15 years, he ended up working for me for 5 years, then he quit. We had a big argument. My dad, he worked for me and we had a big argument. He quit.
Business does that.
And my brother worked for me. It was with me, but, if we're calling a spade, it was for me. And had, multiple friends and everything else like that have gone through it. How I structured it was at the very beginning out of necessity. When you've got 1,000 dockets to process, eventually we needed a docket girl, full-time data entry girl. We ended up for the last 2 years having 2 full-time data entry girls. just one of them turning paper dockets into PDFs and cropping them. She's an expert at cropping, but you never think that that's going to be a job. But when you're sitting there and you're drowning, what do? You just have to get someone. And so then after you've plugged all of the holes, you have to start to build the boat. Like once you've stopped the water leaking in, then you go, okay, well, how am I going to build out this thing? And then you start making some more strategic hires, and you think you're a really great businessman. But from what I've learned a little bit more, if the economy's booming, and I'm talking proper booming, you've got a good name in the industry, like you guys have. I know that you're the same. You have a good name. People are calling. Their normal guy can't do the job. Who's the next guy that they'll call? Taylor. Bang, Taylor. Will you come down? Can you help us out? We need an excavator. We need haul trucks. Whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you're sending them out, and then you get their work and like this. And so, was it great business, or was it an economy that is just shooting for the stars? And I was just a guy that was willing to take absolutely everything in the market. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both a little bit, but people and hiring them and structuring and companies and everything else is some of the most difficult parts of business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And during that process of you hiring people and understanding like, okay, this is somebody's job, just going to be cropping and exporting as a PDF. Like, was there a moment when you realized, okay, like this thing is getting bigger than I expected, or I could scale this even more? This is getting big.
Oh, there's multiple times. Like when I turned over, I think I turned over 50 grand in the first year. When I did a $2,000 day, I was like, I can remember I did a $10,000 day. I can tell you the street address, where I was, what I was digging, the people I was working for. And I went home and I called my best friend and I'm like, you would never believe it, mate. Turned over $10,000 today. And he's like, whoa, what do you mean? And I'm like, I just don't know how it happened. The tip was really close. I was charging the guy per load. We ended up doing 55 loads. $200 a load is $11,000. What the, what's going on? So every step along the way was a myself moment, but also a really proud moment. But then I don't know what it is, but it's just this hunger to keep going, which a businessman has to have. You have to have that drive underneath you. And so then a 10 grand day turned into 100 grand weeks, turned into 250. I think our best month is somewhere around about 10 million bucks. That's starting to be a lot of money and a lot of responsibility for people to work with, and a lot of responsibility for all of the, the structure has to be. And how do you go learn it? Like the MBAs and everything aren't really always applicable, or the business degrees aren't really applicable sometimes to, a construction company in Melbourne, Australia. And so it's been challenging. It's been super challenging. I can actually remember my first $1,000 day, and I could take you to the address. I could tell you what I did. I could tell you, or I had tip fees, because that's how I probably got into the trucks, because every big day that I ever had was around trucking. You can only make so much money digging holes, but if you have to export out and then you line up, as I've seen you line up, when you've got the lineups and you're selling topsoil, and then all of a sudden you look at it and you go, wow, we had a good day. Only one excavator, but 15 trucks, or one loader and 15 trucks. So, yeah, I don't know. There is no firm answers.
Yeah, well, that's whatever, and it relates back to the other questions. You got to make sure that your systems are in place whenever you're trying to move at that scale, right? Like what I was hearing when you're talking is that it just kind of got to this point. And honestly, that's how I feel as well, too. It's like from where we were when I took over for my father to now, people are like, oh, like, how did you do it? It's like, when I think back on the question, I could say like, okay, well, I got people in the office to help. We needed more work, so we priced more work. So I needed an estimator. Then I guess we realized we needed a coordinator. Then we got a coordinator. Then we needed an operations manager. So then we got operations. Then we needed more excavators. So we bought excavators. So like, there's no exact blueprint, but it just kind of happens.
But it's also the same. So there is no blueprint. However, what you're saying is good business fundamentals that you say we're currently, the boat has a hole in it here. Like our estimating, like I'm getting a guy calling me every week saying, where's the quote? And you go, shit, oh, I'll get it to you. And then you're sitting at home at your dining room table while you should be watching, I don't know, Aaron Brockovich with your wife. And then you go and hang on, I've just got to quickly put together a quote for someone. Then you go, nah, I'd rather watch Aaron Brockovich. You know, we all like, it's a good movie. I'm going to hire someone to do this during the day. And then he starts pricing work and you make a good hire, but then you win too much work. And you go, shit. Now I'm moving machines and organizing all of this at night time and on the weekends so that we can do all of this work. I don't want to organize all of that shit, or I don't want to move the machines. I'll employ another truck driver to move the stuff. Well, and then the ball's just rolling down the hill like this. And it's a really great time. The problem that I've ran into in the last 18 months is when the ball isn't rolling down the hill quite as hard. Like, you know, I'm definitely not doom and gloom. You know, like we got a good company. I think that the industry in Victoria, which is the state I'm from, is still got a lot of life in it. It's still going to kick along. We've just, you know, everything goes like this. We're just down the bottom a little bit. But when you're going down this way, it's a little bit harder to manage than it is going up this way. I think that they both have their own things that you got to do differently, which from as far as we can see, we've picked up a huge amount of market share also in what we do. It's just that the rates are a little bit at the moment, you know, because as you mentioned before, guys going to work for free, like we can take, for example, the trucks, like a truck was up at, you know, well over $1,000 a day. Now it's down under $1,000 a day, you know, like just for the truck without a trailer, which is shit, especially when you own a lot of trucks.
Yeah, that is wild. And it's funny when you run like this, and that's kind of how we feel as well too. The economy is like this, but also just construction in general, right? Like our cash flow is like this. And I think for us, the biggest thing this year has been cash flow. And we had like this lull in summertime where we were just on a crap ton of commercial jobs all at once. And normally our residential helps kind of flow that need for cash. And, you know, you get really tight and you get into these situations where it's like, okay, we got to call this person and make this work. And I don't care how big or small you are, everybody deals with that, especially construction. How do you combat cash flow? What's some recommendations for cash flow?
Cash is king. That's it. Cash is the blood in the veins of a business. Everything else matters after cash, but cash matters first. You aren't dynamic if you have no money. You can't get new machines if you got no money. You can't hire people if you got no money. You won't take the risks if you got no money in the bank, and therefore make sure that is forefront of your mind always. Send the invoices, call the people for your payments, you know, make sure money is discussed at all times, because we're not doing this for the practice. I like watching motorbike racing. I'll stay at home and watch that all day if that's what I'm doing for fun. Like digging holes is cool and all, but like motorbike racing's better.
Yeah, we're here to make money.
Yeah, I'm here to make money. And in which case, why do some people get worried about talking about money? Or what I find even worse, why do some people not send their invoices? I had a company, like a truck driver working for me, who worked for me for a month. He didn't invoice me once. We're calling him saying, please invoice. And he's like, yeah, I'll get around to it. We ended up ringing him and said, you must come into the office. You are not allowed to work today, because it's bad for us too.
Yeah, all of a sudden you get hit with this big invoice. It's like, okay, well, we weren't expecting that.
Yeah. And if my team wasn't on top of it, then I'd be hammered, because then all of a sudden you've got a month's worth or 6 weeks worth of trucking. We said, you can't work tomorrow. We're not allocating you tomorrow. We're going to bring you into the office. We're going to go through all of your invoices so that we can make sure that we can do it. I've got a girl who will help you make your invoices.
That's fun. Yeah, dude, on my account has it in our head, like I know I'm on it now. So you were mentioning family working for you and stuff. I had a family member that used to sit in this office. I didn't have an office. I was like, I'm the site guy. I'm going to do this and that. But my business, I didn't have a hold on it. And I didn't do my own invoicing. Our invoicing was like 30 days after we finished the job, we would invoice. So I'm like, no, now I'm 60 days till I'm getting paid. If we're net 30 payments, if we're net 60, now I'm 120. Like, this is not good, guys. Like, we need to figure this out. If I delivered, like, I'll get an email in another half an hour from my coordinator, and I'll see all the stuff that we've done. If we delivered some loads or whatever's invoiceable, whatever left today, I'm invoicing it. I don't care if there's a progress payment on a little electrical trench. I'm fucking invoicing it.
We invoice absolutely everything for the month in the month. So the obviously the girls and guys who are doing it can this again. Some weeks are really busy. They'll invoice a bit. Other weeks they are quiet or whatever it might be. But every invoice must be closed off and sent for the entire company by the end of the 30th or 31st, whatever the date is. Now, there is a standard thing that if the invoice is on the 31st, that includes the day of work too, which means you have 150 guys at work, 150 time slips have to come in, be processed, put on an invoice, put on a spreadsheet and sent. And if that means that it's midnight finish, guess what? It's a midnight finish. That's the expectation. And I think that a lot of companies struggle with that sort of stuff as well. The expectation is that though it's all finalized. Now it runs like a Swiss watch, that thing. Everyone has been trained to send their dockets as soon as they finish it. The girls have the spreadsheet ready. Everything is invoices prepped. They're going home at 4:30 on the 31st, invoicing sometimes, big money on the last day. And it's just and it's just a process. But cash at all times is king. Everything that we talk about, machinery purchases, we're talking about cash, jobs, cash, employees, cash, it all leads back to trying to make money and then paying tax, of course, more cash.
Yeah, taxes are not fun. How do you go about understanding if you're leveraging yourself too much or not enough? Well, how do you go against, I always say it's at the end of the day, it's, you go grab them, grab your balls, but how do you go, okay, we're going to buy these excavators, and we're going to take on this amount of debt. We're going to finance these things. Are you just buying stuff everywhere?
Oh, it's a tough question. I have ebbed and flowed between being up to here, take a big bite and chew and I've been hey, I don't have enough finance on equipment. And then it comes a lot down to taxation. In Australia, they give you really big tax breaks for financing and leasing equipment. So the interest is a deduction, so you're not paying on that. I shouldn't say that they give you big tax breaks for leasing equipment. I'm saying that if you pay it off over 4 years, it is in line with the tax breaks that they can give you on the equipment, the depreciation, because they'll allow you to write off a certain amount per year.
You can write off depreciation. Yes, same as here.
The same as there. But so if you dump 300K on a digger in 1 year, then you end up paying 150 on top of that in tax because that's the tax rate. However, if you finance 300K on a machine, then over the 4 years, it'll match up and you'll end up at zero. Oh, well, you'll end up balancing it out, the taxation versus what you're putting in. So, and that's, I think, important to understand, but to match up to your revenue. We could probably, I'm not an accountant as well as an economist. So, always make sure to get your own financial advice because I am absolutely certain that different states in Canada do different stuff. America's different and Europe's different, but you get good people around you. When have I been over leveraged? Multiple times. When have I been under leveraged? Multiple times. When have I had too much gear? Right now. I don't need the amount of gear that I got. It's not being utilized as much as it could be.
Do you start offloading stuff for some cash? Looking ahead, okay, we might run into a crunch where we could use some cash, or okay, things will pick up and I'm optimistic, I'm going to keep the gear.
Both. You need to have some depth for cash. I was talking to Herb Sargent the other day and he talks about, I call it depth, he calls it altitude. He's like, if you're flying at 30,000 feet in a business and you've got good bank account, lots of money, and then you drop a little bit, you're all good. Drop from 30,000 feet to 20,000 feet, no problem. If you're flying at the tree line and you drop a little bit, you're in deep shit. So make sure you give yourself altitude. Make sure you've got depth. Like I've gone over the years to the banks when I've been flying high and said, listen, I need money. And they're like, what do you need money for? You got plenty of money. I'm like, well, when I need it, you're not going to give it to me. So what can you give me now that I don't need?
That's actually a really good point, Jimmy. We have been in that scenario as well, too, where you have money and the bank's calling you. Be like, hey, you guys should really, keep your cash and run on an extended line of credit. Well, you can help me give some wiggle room here. But we've also been in the position where you have no cash and you need a line of credit. They're like, We really need to see your receivables up a little bit higher, guys. Well, I don't know about that. It's like, okay. So that actually right there is a great point. I've never heard someone say that. Very good point.
When you need it, you'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. That's for sure. Or I could remember I got a loan for a job. We won a big job and the payment terms were real shit. But, big job. Let's kill it. Oh, I think it was close to 1 million ton that we had to truck. I think it was like 700, 800,000 or something over a few years. And so I'm like, right, we've got to get this money in. I went to the bank. They gave me a big line of credit. And then it turns out that the job was a slow burn at the start. So we were only trucking sort of 5 to 10,000 a week. And then it was ramping up, like this. And in which case I ended up getting the money in, being able to fund it. Went back to the bank and I said, I just want to downgrade that from this to this. And they're like, well, you don't need it anymore because you're funding the job. We can see. And I'm like, yeah, but if I do need it, I'm not going to have it then. So why don't we just leave it there? And, you can get some fairly cheap line items. I'm sure it's the same over there, that if you haven't drawn down on them, only cost you, a couple of grand a month to keep open, and can sit there and in the back end. And hopefully if a rainy day comes, then, you've got a bit of a nest egg to go and play with rather than selling the equipment at a shit rate. But in saying that, don't have a yard full of diggers either, because then that's stupid as well. Because even if it is, the rate's the rate. If a 20-ton excavator used to be worth 150 grand to sell and now it's 100, guess what? It's not like if you hold onto it for 3 months, 6 months or 12 months, you're going to get that 50 back. May as well just offload it and try and use the money somewhere else.
It'd be a hard pill to swallow, though, especially I think a lot of people have pride or ego would get in the way of being in these tough times and going, oh, I don't want people to know I got to sell off my machinery in order to make it work.
I've got an ego thing as well. I could give a perfect example. One of my builders, really great builder, bought a PosiTrack for a job and he used it and then he couldn't sell it. This was only 12 months ago. Couldn't sell it for the money. After a while, he rings me up and he goes, Jimmy, I'll give you all of my work, buddy. Come on, buy it. I'm like, hell yeah, I've got you. I'll buy that. No problem. I use PosiTracks. Not really. I find PosiTracks are better off to get an owner operator than to put my own guys in it, because when the rates were good, it was okay. But when the rates drop, PosiTracks need a lot of maintenance, and you might be better to sub in than you are to own your own one, put the fuel in it, put the guy in it and maintain it. But, well, I reckon that I overpaid for that bloody thing, 20 grand now. Sat in my yard doing absolutely nothing for a while. But at the moment, I was like puffing my chest. Hell yeah, no problem. I got you. Ego is a funny thing in business. You need a bit of it. We've obviously got enough of it to film ourselves and record ourselves to put on a podcast. There has to be a bit of ego there, but you want to have the right sort, because otherwise you'll end up with a PosiTrack in your yard you can't sell. Piece of shit.
So as you grow, Jimmy, and I think a lot of talk about culture happened, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and Instagram started going off. People were like, "Oh, make your content videos and be able to reach people," and it is something that is very important. How do you find that culture in construction, specifically online? Because I like getting people's perspectives about like social media and construction about online that do it. So how have you found that the culture of construction online has shifted from 4 or 5 years ago to now? And is it good or bad?
Very good question. You're a great interviewer, good looking guy, great interviewer,
Well, I am.
I think that it's a lot more fog now. I think that there's a lot of content put out online that is very fake. But, at the same time, it's hard to make real content, I sit in front of for a camera for an hour and I can sound like, you start putting snippets of information in, it sounds like I'm killing it. Guys come up to me and they go, Jimmy, your business, amazing. I was driving down the road today, saw 15 of your trucks. And I go, yeah, but it rained last week and half of my guys were in the yard washing equipment, it's not as glamorous as it sounds. But now with all of this really high quality job site content that people are putting out, which you're probably one of them, or pioneering ones as well. You know, you guys were really early adopters of, you know, some real high quality content and edits. And now it's everywhere, and you cannot differentiate yourself at all.
I know. And that's what I struggle with right now, Jimmy. That's why I asked the question, right? Because this is stuff that I think about all the time. I think the same as you. I think that there's a lot of guys that try to single themselves out as construction influencers. And I think they do it with ill intent. Buy my program, sign up for my program, do this, and I'll teach you that, or do this. And it's like, well, don't know if I believe in that. Second thing is, how do I stand out now on social media? You know, and that's not me being like, boo hoo, how do I stand out? But it's like, okay, everyone caught up to what we were doing. What's the next thing? How do we go to that next thing? What is it? Do I share more about my journey in my life, buying a different business or this? But it's like, well, that doesn't really pertain to just Kenwood Construction. And then now I don't want to overshare my clients. My clients don't want to be on camera. These sitting in a boardroom talking about spending millions of dollars with them. They don't want to be on camera with that, right? There's privacy there. So I struggle with what's next.
So I probably was earlier than you, let's say.
Oh, yeah, you were.
And I started posting up a lot of pictures of diggers. And I remember when stories came out, people are sharing my stories. I was one of the few people that were putting up pictures and stories of diggers. That's where most of my following came from. And then my content wasn't as high quality as a lot of the stuff coming out. And I'd like died in the ass at sort of 40, 45,000 followers. I sat there for like 4 years.
Then they shifted and went somewhere else.
They shifted, went somewhere else, probably onto your, channel or whatever it is. But then lately, I've seen a fairly decent uptick in what I'm doing now, which is like a whole different sort of thing. However, I do sometimes feel like a bit of a fraud still. You know, I've got a background. I've been doing this almost 20 years. You know, I've moved tens of millions of meters. Tens. Like I've probably closer to 100 million meters that we've moved. And I still sometimes sit here and think to myself, I don't know shit. Like I'm not an accountant. I'm not an economist. But then you have a guy who ran a business for like 3 minutes, who did 2 jobs. And he's like, anyway, and starts putting himself on camera and saying, we're going to do this. And it's a lot. And I think that one of the ways to differentiate yourself at the moment is authentic content, putting out what you do. I think, but we've also killed like introducing the people of Starbuck. Like I did that for close to a year. Every week I put out a different face of Starbuck. I remember one of the girls got really upset because she got like 20 likes and 15 of them were people who worked next to her. And she got really upset. And you go like, no one wants that anymore. No one wants to meet the people at Starbucks. No one wants to, oh, great. You dug a hole and you filmed it with a DJI or whatever, Mavic 2. There's nothing that you can do that sets it apart. The editing, the side of things a little bit, you can still have some real high quality videos that you look at and go, that's sick.
Oh, 100%.
But they don't get the engagement anywhere near as much anymore.
It's not as impressive. Like there's so much of it too. And like, there's a new style of editing that is really popular right now, right? It's like with After Effects and stuff like pops in and add the sound effects to it, the crunch, the move, the this. And it's amazing.
I feel like I got epilepsy though sometimes when I'm watching it because it's going like this in your face. And you go,
I think the tough thing is like when I first started, I started doing it because I was like, I want to make it cool. This is different. No one else is doing this. No one else making remixes or edits to this. But now it's like, hey, now what? How do we post stuff and provide value to our business, to the people that work here, to the people that are watching?
I went through this same thing, but the problem is that the only person who can do it is you, the guy in the camo hat, because no one else, they don't care about talking to anyone else. They don't want to hear advice from anyone else. They want to hear it from you and you alone, which is like this personal branding thing that, went off. But I've gotten maybe like 3,000 or 4,000 followers in 3 or 4 months on Instagram. I've gotten 10,000 or 12,000 followers in a year on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm up to 17,500 followers or something on LinkedIn now, and I only started it 2 years ago.
A big deal.
Hey, but people just want real, authentic stories and a little bit of advice maybe thrown in. But then I was talking to someone yesterday and he's like, I offer a mentorship program. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. He's like, you should come on and do it. And I'm like, I think I have enough advice to offer someone to mentor him. And he's like, no, you do. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel really bad if he went to shit also.
Yeah.
But then you have all of these clubs and, like we have them in Australia. I'm sure you have the same, these business clubs that invite you down and want you to come join them for, I don't know, 10 grand a year where you go down and sit. And I could remember one invited me to come along and I went and sat and listened to a girl tell everyone how social media is great and how to use it. And she had and I'm not judging anyone, she had 5,000 followers. And I had 40,000 followers. And I'm sitting down and listening to her and say, I don't know about social media and how to get there. Yeah, I'm like you. You liked it, making your job sites look cool, great edits. You like your machines black, pimped out, and you take photos of them. I like diggers, so I took photos of it. This girl's reckoning that looking like she's got the whole world figured out, and she's only got 5,000 followers. I wouldn't stand up there and tell people how to use it. And I think that's what maybe, because I struggle with the same thing, the fraudulent sort of stuff that's put out there by the business coaches. It's a lot. I could get into it, but
I know I could too. And I think there's a part of me too that when I talk about it, I go, I guess the more liberal mind in me would go, they have a right to their own shit too. And if they want to go online and do that, then that's all good. But my other mind, I have my own thoughts and I go, you know what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't have it figured out.
But in saying that, people could listen to me and go, 100 guys, shut up. You know what? 100 guys is a piece of piss. There's guys out there. I remember I ran into some guys when I was over there and they're like, oh, I've run a company of 750 people. And you go, oh man, that's, we build freeways and we have our own asphalt plants, and then the asphalt plants are fed by our own quarries, and then we import our own, emulsion solution on tankers. And you go, yeah, no, I've dug a big hole once or twice, and I lined up 20 trucks and thought it was cool. So it's just all this, I don't know, maybe a little bit of that ego coming out if me and you are willing to sit in front of a camera and talk about it. But it's also, I find that the content has to be relatable as well. It's some of the stuff that's put online, of the biggest mining contracts in the world. It's cool to watch, yeah, but it's on Discovery Channel. That's as relevant as it is to me. It's Mike Rowe going somewhere and, you get to watch him. It's awesome. It's cool, but that's not really the content that when I was, early on in my business, I was wanting to engage with. I was wanting to engage. When I had one machine, I wanted to see how a guy got to 5. When I was at 5 machines, I wanted to see how he got to 20 and the problems that he went through. And are my problems normal, or are my problems just specific Starbuck problems? And in which case I'm in deep shit.
It's funny, especially when you talk to guys with or guys and girls with larger businesses. I had a guy on the podcast that has 1,300 employees here, and I mean, crazy. And you know what? I think it's funny as I think back on the conversation. Again, the binoculars, whatever way you want to look at them, I'm not good with them either. Is he looked at stuff from a different lens, and he talked the main podcast about acquiring companies, right? And I always often think is okay, maybe that's how you scale, and that should be the strategy, is acquiring companies. Because it was just interesting. It's the main focus of the conversation was, oh, we're going to acquire this. Oh, we acquired this in 1985. Oh, we acquired that in 1995.
How do you go about acquiring shit? What do you do? Go to business directory and then go there and walk in and go knock, knock, knock. Hello. I want to buy your company with 30 people and I don't want to get ripped off for it and all of this stuff. However, in saying that, my mate he started out an electrical company and he ended up selling. He got acquired, I suppose. And so it does exist. But I also find that it's a really good point you make about looking through the lens, the procedures and policies and how you run your company when you've got 5 guys on the ground has to be different than 30 guys. The 5 guys on the ground, and if you're on site with them, you barely even need them to have a timesheet, because you know what time Tom left. He left to go pick up his kids, and Dave stayed late because tomorrow he has to duck out to go get a doctor's appointment. But you barely need a timesheet because you're there with them and you trust them a whole lot more because of that interaction that you have daily. And it's quite seamless and easy to run. When you end up scaling well beyond that, like you rock up and you don't even know guys who are on site. Or I stopped going to the job sites as much because I didn't understand what was happening or what we were doing. I would see the address come through, the estimators would do it, the people, the allocations or scheduling team would do it. Then I didn't know who the client was, and I'm going in and saying, "Hey, I'm Jimmy Starbuck," and I'm like, "Go do this because that makes sense." And they're like, "No, that don't make sense because this is that and that is this." And then I started, crumbling the foundation, like because of my own need to try and go to site and make money. But in actual fact, the process makes money then. But if I put that process on top of 5 guys, I would have lost a heap because those guys work with me, like that's what they were working for. We're a tight knit crew and we couldn't do 20 basements at once, but gosh, we'd kill 1 or 2 of them at a time. We never failed a compaction test on a car park and there was never a grade that was wrong. Now we could do 15 car parks, but we do rework. Why? Because you make a standardized process, that fits 90% of the time, but then there's always those things that you have to manage.
That's a great point, Jimmy. I love it. That was the hindrance of our business. I thought that I was helping by being on site. I thought that I was helping by being the site guy or going to site, talking to the guys, doing this, doing that, running a machine if I needed to, being that guy. But we never had rework.
Killing it. When you running it the best too.
Exactly. But you know what? I had a podcast with Trent Harris from Blue Collar Contractors. And he said it, and it made a lot of sense to me. He goes, but if I hire somebody and they can do my job 80% as good as I think that I can do it, I'm fucking winning. And I'm like, you know what? That's perfect. Because again, we talked about ego. I think that I can run our screening plant the best. I think that I can run our job site the best. Hey, that's just how I think.
I used to be able to load trucks the best.
Exactly. Most efficient loader. But if I could find people that are 85 and like you said, 90% more, efficient, and I can focus on other stuff, the processes, how stuff should happen, the future, the growth, looking outward rather than inward of the business. Honestly, man, our margins started to increase and our revenue started to increase. And I'm like, holy shit, wow, I'm working. Like, this is good. I was actually hurting my business by thinking I was helping it.
But then you still go back and do the same thing again and again. So maybe it was you were the operator, the best operator, and then you get out of the machine, but then you're the best guy running the job site, but then you're the best guy to do this, and I building up. You end up being the restriction. Now, what's really challenging is then when you start moving into the next phase of growth, you actually have restrictions that aren't you, that are your employees. They need to grow with you. Like I have a manager of an entire company of mine who started out as one of those data girls. I think you've met her at CONEXPO, the one with the big hair. She started out as a data girl and now manages tens and tens of millions of dollars. The growth that she's had to go through as well, she has gone through the same process because she was the best at doing data. That's the reason why she had made it out of data, because she started understanding so much about the trucks and talking to them and stuff that she started working into scheduling. Then she was the best scheduler and started to work out to be an operations manager because it just made sense. Then operations manager, work into an entire company, each layer on the way up. Think about the constriction of her and how that's moved and how I've had to look at myself to try and help train her. And she's actually helped train me as well. Like she's given just as much training and help to me as what I've given to her. But it's such a difficult thing, the growth and scale of a company and construction. And I think far more than some other industries, because, I can remember there's a vitamin company that sold in Australia for some obscene amount of money and their profit margin was 40%. 40%? It doesn't exist. If it does exist, I'm going home and throwing it in the air and lying on my bed naked in it. It just doesn't exist. But that does exist in development. That does exist in a software that exists. Now, I'm not saying that all companies make that. But I'm saying scaling is easier when, the profitability is really high. They have lower revenue than us though. So that probably helps in our, sort of field. But profitability is high and the willingness for investment is also high. We just spoke, it's hard to go to the bank, let alone you ever heard of angel investing in construction? Some guy, like them coming down and going to give you $10 million to help you scale, for 20%, not quite as much, as what it does if you own an app.
Oh yeah, that doesn't happen. I've never heard of someone wanting to be a silent investor or an angel investor in construction. Be like, here's your 10 million. Whoa, why is it all gone already? It's been a month.
I had a 320D that's now a 323.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't take long to spend money.
Or like you seen a guy on Shark Tank, stand there and say, I build roads. And then they're like, oh my God, yes, what a great idea. You build roads. And then they're like, oh, what I'll do is I'll offer you $4 million for 6%. Then the guy's like, great. I bought a roller, paver, and I employed 3 guys, but that job went to shit and we lost $1 million too. What makes some of the challenges is also what makes it such a great industry, and the people that are in it is what makes it just pretty amazing to be part of, really loyal, hardworking people that if, I've rocked up on site and, they'd give me the shirt off of their back, some of these guys. And in fact, they probably have I've actually got a bit of a story about it. A guy who's worked for me for a long time, he's coming up to like 17, 18 years now. He was lying underneath the truck fixing it in the mud. And I'm like, mate, what are you doing? So I ran over. I got a big, sheet of, I think it was rubber, like a real nice thin sheet of rubber. And I said, oi, Rob, come on, I'll give you this sheet of rubber. And he slid it underneath there. And then he put my tools on top of it and said, thanks so much. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's for you. And he's like, yeah, but your tools. He's like, we don't want to have to buy new ones. He's like, been raining a lot this month. And you go, I don't think anyone's like that in IT.
Yeah, very true.
Like this guy, like looking at me, and it's just like it wasn't even a thought process for him. It was just instinct that the company, I'm gonna put the tools on the rubber so that it's that. And it's humbling to have those sorts of guys and girls who work for me that they love Starbuck more than I do some days. Those girls who send those invoices that used to be at midnight, can't go home until it's easy for me to say, and I'll pick up pizza when I leave at 6 p.m. or like you pick up a hamburger on the way home. I've had emails come through at midnight and a lot of them saying, this is our end of month, which is another problem altogether. Guys, they actually stopped accepting our invoices after close of business. They said we had to input them by the close of business. So we changed it and we said, okay, we'll invoice you the entire month the day before, and then we'll amend it on the last day so that it's all already done. We've sent it and we'll amend it on the last day if we can get it in by the close of business, which really means the site guys finish 3:30 if they're not doing OT, which we sort of had to, corral in on the last day because the dockets would take too long, or pre-write the dockets. But then they came back, and I can remember one builder came to me with a big claim, a few $100,000. And he said to me, oh, nah, you can't submit 2 claims in 1 month. That now pushes your claim into the second month. And because it was an amended version, that means that the first one's null and void. The second one, you entered 2 claims in the month. So we're going to pay you 30 days, like the next 30-day payment.
That's wild.
And I can guarantee you that happens in Canada as well, in America, in Europe, that sort of behavior, where people aren't paying or knocking back claims. I've had a mate whose claim was knocked back because it wasn't in the right format and it didn't have the address or something ridiculous listed on it. But all of the information, they knew exactly where it was coming from. And I think that's where, for all of the positives of the industry, there's some negative parts that need to be discussed as well and dealt with, which is, payments. Payments are real hard.
Yeah, that's how you dictate cash flow, right?
And why is the cash flow so difficult? Well, because we don't sell coffees that we get paid $5 when we pick one up, Like, imagine if you got paid at the end of every single day.
That would be wild.
Wouldn't it be great?
That would be something to dream about. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But I think that's what makes the industry so crazy. It's yeah. I think that, like you said, this industry is awesome. The people in it are like far now. I'd like to try to find another industry that has the people like this in it, and the people that we will see. And I'm going to see you two soon at ConExpo, right in March. You looking forward to that?
I think that the ConExpo is one of the best events that you can go to.
The best, not one up, the best.
Well, it's a long way for Australian, but I think that it is definitely worth the journey. It brings you into something. It's not just about the machines, but the machines are incredibly important. The people that you can meet, the networking that you can do, the fact that when you go there as a business owner, that you can be part of society, let's say, of other business owners who are dealing with the same stuff, the same challenges, and talk about that over a beer next to the strip. That's some pretty cool moments there. And then, of course, we all like Tonka toys as well. So in which case, then you get to see them during the day, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fun haven for everybody construction. Yeah, man, I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped to see you there in March, and I know that we got some cool stuff planned, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm going to be a busy beaver. I'm sure you are going to be a busy beaver as well. I'm going to be doing some talks and some meetups, and then also going to put on it. For the last 2 times, I've actually organised some drinks for Australians and New Zealanders. Last time I had like 50 people come down.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. I don't pay for the drinks.
I was going to say, do you buy the drinks?
No. You buy your own drinks.
You heard it here first. Jimmy's buying your drinks if you go there for 50 people. Okay, Jimmy, I'm going to rock. I got to get that double quarter pounder for my wife, for me, not my wife. My wife's probably at home eating something else. Actually, she likes a McDonald's burger every now and then. There's nothing wrong with that.
You should get her one on the way home.
I should do that. Thank you for cutting out time. I appreciate it, dude. It's always a good chat with you. And I'm super pumped again. We'll see you in March at ConExpo, and let's rock.
I absolutely can't wait. Everyone should buy their tickets right now.
Buy it now. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jimmy. Catch everybody on the next one.